Alright, good day guys, and welcome to the Inky Raven. So today we're going to kind of continue on with our shading forms with watercolor that we started yesterday with cubes. So what we're going to do with this one is focus on some cylinders. So it could be things like bottles, cans, something like that. So first of all, I'm going to start by drawing about 5 different cylinders. So essentially these are going to be ovals that you extend out and end with a second oval. So we've got one there, a second one. They can also, of course, be just circles, just depending on what angle you're at is exactly what they're going to look like. And so this one in particular, I'm actually going to get a little bit into perspective because I'm going to have those two lines kind of go towards each other. Or you can make it just straight across. So 2, let's make one here that is just standing. So you could also use this for like cups, mugs, like little water containers, kind of like that. So like mason jars. So when you get to the bottom here, you will kind of curve it since it's not a flat side. And let's do one tall, skinny one. And for our last one, we'll do another one kind of laying on its side, but more of a circle. So this also like works well for pipes and whatnot. Alright, so again, are using a light source. That is going to create, and we want to focus on for sure 3 things. So highlight, a shadow, and a drop or cast shadow. Alright, so to begin with, I'm going to go ahead and lay out my light sources. So this one I'll kind of have be lit from behind. This one I think we'll do directly above. This one over here from the left. This one, I think we'll actually mix it up, like this one from kind of below. And then this last one here will light from directly in front of it. Alright, so again, we are going to be shading these with watercolor. So again, kind of like yesterday, so I want a smaller brush. Alright, so let's see, we used orange on the cubes yesterday, so what we're going to do with this one, I think we'll use some green. up a little bit. Alright, so I've got a good bit of water here. So for this one, it's kind of going to be lit from behind, and actually before I start to do that, I am going to go ahead and draw my drop or cast shadows. So if this one's being lit from behind, your shadow is kind of going to go this way, well, from behind and above. This one, if it's behind and kind of on top of, you'll kind of have your drop shadow there. This one, where it's being lit from above, like your shadow, depending on how steep of an angle, will go up that way. This one will come down. So again, it's just your light source. It's going to be kind of travel through your object and then just extend that base. And so this one being lit from above and behind, your drop shadow could be kind of back here. Alright, so now on the watercolor. So let's get a little bit more water here. So for this one, since I don't know how dark this is, we're going to start with this dark side. And then I do want a bit more water. And then I'll just kind of move that up towards the front face where that light is. And then I can go back in with a darker green, some more pigment, kind of make this end cap a little bit darker. So it's got a lot of water to it, so it's wanting to blend a good, or bleed a good bit. So we'll let that dry a little bit. So for this one, I'm going to do a black drop shadow. So I'll kind of do the same like I did yesterday and kind of experiment with the different colors. So this one has a harsh black shadow. So where I didn't wait for this to dry, you can kind of see it there where it is starting to bleed. So I can go in and kind of fix it since it is still wet. So you want to make sure your brush is full of clean water and just go through and kind of pick that up. So it will still kind of stain it a bit, but we can go back over that with the green once it's actually dry, and we need to darken that anyway. So this one here, being lit from above, this one I want to make sure I have a lot of water. So I'm actually going to use a slightly wider brush to put some water down on my palette so that I make sure I have plenty of it before I add that pigment to it. Alright, so just a little bit of green in there. And this green is pretty powerful. So again, this is going, we'll start with this here where it is the furthest away. And so this does have a good bit of water in it, so this one will work pretty well. So this one I am going to go ahead and color the drop shadow as well, and then we'll blend in some. Alright, so I'm going to let that one dry a little bit, and I'm going to move on towards this one. So this one, where your light source is here from behind, given that our shadow or drop shadow is here, the top is going to be a little bit lighter, and the the back side of the cylinder here will be what is dark. So I'm going to go ahead and go in with this light green that I've made. And again, for this one, I'm going to color the drop shadow as well. Alright, so this one is being lit from like below straight onto that front face. So I'm kind of going to go in very lightly with that light green, and actually I'm going to grab some more water and try to fade it out so that it is almost white down there at the bottom. So when that dries, it should brighten up a little bit. So the top here would be darker, so I'll go ahead and lay down a layer of paint. This one I think we'll do the brown shadow for, but I'm going to go ahead and start on this one as well so that these can be drying. Alright, so this one again being lit from below. And this one I think I'm going to leave a harsh kind of white highlight. So it's going to be more like a metal object. So that's going to be kind of facing our light source. So if I kind of take the center line, it's going to hit right about there, and it's going to go all the way up. So for this, I'm going to kind of blend that harsh line in a little bit with just some clean water so that it's got a bit more of a gradient to it versus that harsh outline. Alright. Then go back in with a little bit of color for the top there. And the shadow. Alright, so it looks like this one should be good to go back in with a little bit. So I'm getting a more pigmented paint. I'm going to go here at that back panel. I'm actually also going to kind of fan up from the bottom of it so that it does have a bit of a highlight to it as well. So once I've got that laid in, I'm going to do kind of the same thing that I did here. Grab some just water and kind of blend that out so that it's not as harsh. So I think I might add a little bit more darker to that here as soon as that dries. So this one, again, we're being lit from behind and above. So kind of same thing, going back in and glazing, create that darker area and leave kind of that highlight. And then your end cap will be the darkest area other than your shadow. So grab some water, kind of blend this out. So this one here, just kind of continuing with the green. This front face is done. So we'll go in and add some darker greens to the top side right here. So this one, again, being lit from above, or above and behind. So this side of the top will be a little bit darker. And then of course, this here, the back side will be even darker. I'm gonna grab some clean water, kind of blend this out a little bit more. Alright, so this one I am going to do mostly a green shadow. And then kind of fade it out. So we'll go back in with a darker green here in a second for that one. Alright, so this one was the one that we had that front highlight here. So with cylinders, if you want to make them very metallic, you want to make sure you have a dark edge and kind of like that nice highlight next to the dark. And so I'll actually blend that out a little bit more here in a moment. Alright, so going back in for a third time, and that's really the key to when you're doing a lot of work with watercolor, because like for the cubes, they're fairly, each side is going to not have a lot of variation, but as you want to add more details and kind of layer your colors so that you get this nice blend of darks and lights, it's really important to like let your paint dry so that you can work without fear of kind of messing it up per se. Alright, so I went back in, darkened that one. I'm gonna call that one done. So this one here, kind of going back in, darkening that last panel. And we'll come back and do the shading here in a moment for the drop shadow. Alright, so this one, I'm going to add the darker kind of to the edge and kind of slowly bring it up so that it does kind of fade a little bit. And just kind of use some water to fan that out a so that one there. So I'm gonna do this one. I'm gonna add a little bit of a highlight at this point, so it could be like reflected light from the surface back here, so that it's got a hint of a highlight to it. And so the shadow for this one we were leaving green. And so as always, you can kind of follow along with this, or you can kind of experiment on your own, use this as a guide. Because by no means is this perfect, but it's all about learning how to glaze and mix your colors and kind of use them to layer. So this one will touch up the top and kind of this edge over here. And then kind of fill in that shadow. So watercolor does dry fairly quickly, and so you can kind of move around your paper like I have done here. Or if you're working on like one specific area, you can kind of lightly hit it with like a hairdryer if you would like. Okay, so the complement of green is going to be red, so that's kind of going to be what you use to make kind of that tonal difference when you're blending and everything. So kind of makes, they cancel each other out. So I'm going to play around with that a bit. And kind of make this drop shadow red, and then I'll go back in and add some green to that. I'm going to add some red to this one as well. So here, where that green is still a little bit wet, you can really see how it's kind of making a better black per se than the straight black out of the pan. And so this one here, we were going to do a brown shadow. So this one you can see how the red has kind of muted out a bit. And I'm just going to go back in with a bit of green. to just kind of glaze it a little bit more. And so if I add a little bit of red while that's still wet, that should dry to a nice, lovely, like blackish brown. That really kind of doesn't look as harsh as this here. I'm going to add a little bit more of that to this one as well. Alright, so to finish up, we're going to darken the brown here. And so the other really main thing about watercolors is you want to start and kind of work from dark, or not dark, light to dark. Because once the dark is down, it is very hard to remove it and go back to light. So that's kind of also why when I was working with the first layer of color, if I wasn't sure exactly how dark it was going to be, I started on the dark side. Alright, and I think to finish this up, I'm going to darken the shadow here just a little bit. And kind of fan that out into the other as well. Alright, I think I'm gonna call that done. So we have 5 cylinders, all from different, kind of drawn from different angles as well as lit from different angles. Alright guys, so have fun, stay safe, make some stuff.